from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be parted from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from bias, attachment, and hatred. That transcendent story of beyond the full story of completely perfected fully awakened being, perfect knowledge and good conduct without the knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be attained, teacher of gods and human beings, you completely awakened one, you thou transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the pure Shadow planet, I found you for refuge. To the founder, the thou transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect knowledge and good conduct, the God and Lord of the world, the supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, you completely and fully awakened one, the thou transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the pure Shadow planet, I prostrate make offerings and go for refuge. To the founder, the thou transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, the God and Lord of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, you completely and fully awakened one, ye thou transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer of the shocking planet, I prostrate make offerings and go for refuge. When, O supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you cast out 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then I prostrate. With pure bodies, forms supremely pure, with motion like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, and her immense act, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme sun, face like a spotless moon, color like gold, you I prostrate. Devil-free like you, the 3 worlds are not, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of miracle qualities like the vast ocean, to you the one on the left side I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path to sublime pure reality, to the Dharma that pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated also shall have the liberation, the holy guilt qualifies the realizations, who are devoted to moral precepts, to you the sublime community and ending virtue I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 ever God homage. To all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms, and all aspects, the supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly, this is the teaching of the Buddha. The star or mirage, the flame of lamp, an illusion of rock of dew or a bubble, a dream of flash and lightning of cloud, see condition things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, returned by the ways of aging, sickness, and death. Geshe Tenley, Prince of God's protector's heart, to tip of this fresh, pure white heat, curd like cloud, O Samprapa, Dharma's omniscient king, pray come to this place with your disciples, in space ahead on lion throne, lotus and moon, venerable Guru, smile brightly with delight, pray stay hundreds of eons to spread doctrine, as supreme merit, feel for my mind of faith, your wisdom mind sees full range of knowables, your eloquent speech adorns fortunate ears, your beauteous body, fame, glory, outstanding, homage to you, worthwhile to think of, hear and see, pleasant offerings of water, various flowers, offered up to you, supreme field of merit, non-virtue committed with body, speech, and mind, which I have heaped up since beginning West time, especially what has contradicted three vows. Each I confess from my heart with strong regret. In time of strife you strove to learn and practice, shun vain mundane concerns, made life essence-full. O protector from depths of our hearts, we rejoice in your powerful great deeds. Venerable gurus from love and wisdom, clouds densely massed in your Dharmakaya sky, break loose a rain of vast profound Dharma on fields of disciples just as needed. May whatever virtue that I here gather bring benefit to all beings and doctrine, and may it make venerable Losandrapas essential teachings specially shine forever. Ning say with Chen Chen Raisi, Dream Ken Pei Wan Po Jan Pelia, Du Malu Jon Se San Wei Long Chen Ke Pei Su Yen Song Kapa, Lo Sandra Pe Sha La So Wade. O glorious and precious root Guru, pray take seat of lotus on my crown, caring for me with your great kindness. Bestow attainments of body, speech, and mind. O glorious and precious root Guru, pray take seat of lotus at my heart, caring for me with your great kindness. Bestow attainments common and supreme. O glorious and precious root Guru, pray take seat of lotus at my heart, caring for me with your great kindness, until supreme awakening remains steadfast.
Homage to the exalted rituals.
Thus have I heard at one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagir on Golden Mountain, together with the great assembly of monks and the great assembly of Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the concentration of the countless aspects of phenomena called profound illumination. At that very time, the severe Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva great being, was looking perfectly at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, perfectly looking at the emptiness and inherent existence of the five aspects also. Then, through the power of the Buddha, the venerable Zarathustra said to the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva great being, how should a child of the lineage train who wishes to engage in practice the profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva great being, replied to the venerable Shariputra as follows. Shariputra, whichever son or daughter of the lineage wishes to engage in practice the sonam ki, rola penche sange drupasho. Chomdam sampi chomdam la, jachu bardu daki daksuchi, daki chokin kepe sonam ki, rola penche sange drupasho. Chomdam sampi chomdam la, jachu bardu daki daksuchi, daki chokin kepe sonam ki, rola penche sange drupasho.
Good evening, everybody. I miss you guys. And it's very special, When I was in my home country, and if I went to Tibet to see my family, or then it's very busy that day, Sunday and then Wednesday. Something, more I remember you guys. Here. Anyway, I have two families. My previous, since I born, when I was 19 years old, I spent with my family. Then after I come to India, then I come to here. I don't know. Vision more close. I think maybe here's more close to my feeling to my, my family members. Even I go there, I maybe 60-70% people I don't remember. Older ones really passed away. Same age, my age is. A lot of them, then they will get old, then the company change. Then now there are a lot of younger generations. Then we have not much connection. And here, we are very more close. I don't know, I feel more close. Anyway, I miss you. Welcome back.
Welcome back. Stay with us.
Then I'm very happy to come back to see all of you here. I think we missed many weeks, right? Almost 2 months. Yeah, but even since then we have very good things happen. A lot of high teachers come in. We got a lot of teachings. If I think now we have enough to, we can say enough to get the teachings, now how to more practice. Right? Then anyway also, I think you guys very good attendance. I always mention, you have to walk all day. And now, 6 o'clock they become dark. Then 7 o'clock we have 2 hour teachings. In winter sometimes 4 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
4 o'clock is down. Then we have to say, 2-3 hours we have to go to class. It's very funny, the summer to me up. Then down 9 o'clock. But still you guys doesn't give up to a little study. then I don't know how much you practice, but studies, it's good. You have hard working, check out the families, then got a lot of traffic sometimes. You have to stand there a long time, waiting that, but still you guys come from, some people also are far away, but still you have effort to study Dharma. It is very good. Even we don't get much results this life, but it's 100%, we give very good influence. When right now we have some prayer to be born or be meet to Buddha Maitreya. Is it Maitreya? It's got a Maitreya anyway. Because when Buddha Shakyamuni's teaching is degenerate, the next Buddha is Buddha Maitreya. He will come to the same Buddha Shakyamuni. Then we pray for right now to meet him, teach for us. Then they put influence to when he become to Buddha. We are the first to, students. Therefore we get big influence. When Buddha Shakyamuni come here, we are not here, right? Are you guys meet Buddha Shakyamuni? Maybe that time we was maybe some bugs, maybe some incense, or the insects, maybe some birds, maybe same area that Buddha Shakyamuni teaching areas. Therefore maybe that time some influence. Then now we have to conditions come ripen, how is that? Ripen, then we can, you guys interested to Dharma. Also you have to pray to go to study some Dharma. If without cause, condition, this not happen. Buddhism believe, Therefore, we are fortunate we never meet Buddha Shakyamuni. He came to the world, he teach. He also spent 81 years in this world, but we don't have chance to meet him. But still his teaching still not generate, complete, still live. We have opportunity to meet this. I think we have previous life or any lives have a connection for Buddha Shakyamuni. Therefore, even we more influenced by the Dharma than definitely we will meet future Buddha. Buddha's teaching say, Geshe Tenley Tsoksa, Masana Sanjig Marsero.
So it is said that if you don't accumulate merit for 3 countless great eons, then you will not achieve enlightenment.
Therefore, very long time, very, right? We don't know how you count this counts, Therefore, even you are the very good for practitioner to the Tantra. Even there's 16 lives. 16 lives. They were very long, 16. It's 1/6. If you do very good practitioner, you can get, Buddhahood or Jiva enlightenment, 16 lives. Therefore, one left, nothing, right? Therefore, even if we don't get much benefit, Holiness said, last week, New York, then we have to study hard, also more focus. Otherwise, you try to couple months, couple years, then say, oh, nothing makes sense. Nothing happened for me. If you are not really focused, then how you say? Therefore, is Buddha's teaching. It's not easy to understand, not easy to practice, right? Whatever Buddha's teaching says, we do always opposite, right? Therefore, we have to completely change. It's difficult because we are habit to other direction. Now you have to change. Put some mission. We can just put easy, but our mind is very difficult. Therefore, it's not easy to understand, not easy to practice, also not easy to get the result. But even we don't get much result, we know or not, but put big influence, then create the big cost to achieve the Buddhahood or more understand. Therefore, I would like to say thank you everybody. Study is good. I'm very happy. Then study is usually also everybody has daily practice. Then not necessary to daily practice means you have to some initiations. Then they give you some commitment. Okay, you have to do commitment this every day. Same as our center pray. First pray how you say refuge Bodhisattva. Then the 4 measurables. During that time, I think we really talk many times. Then not just say the words, a little bit thinking the meaning. Holiness said, when he has one parrot, he's a parrot. How is it? Parrot, right? And he has one parrot in Lhasa. He's very clean to Oman Peme home. But he doesn't know the meaning. Then, main things also a little bit. Of course, we cannot understand everything, but a little bit think about the meaning. When people ask to the public talk, he said, when I got bodhicitta and emptiness, it's a little bit makes sense. I can do. I think that's right. I can do a little bit. But when I do six-session Guru Yoga, looks like, parrots. How is it, parrots? Parrots. It means that I can just recite that. I don't think about the meanings. That time he mentioned in six-session Guru Yoga is also the big practice, also the related to Tantra. Tantra, right? Tantra. But also you have to, they talk about mention to the vows. If you do know that the vows, that's then not exactly the same as parrots. If you don't know they're also vows, they count the vows, then very similar to the parrot. And I think we also teach many times here the vows. Read who did six-session Guru Yogas. Then, even you doesn't much meditation practice, but if you know the vows also, then Carvers keep the vows. Anyway, then now today we have to study this book. Do you know what they shows? This is what picture they will, right? The mission to make that, we have food, we can put the mission. How you call this mission? Mixer, juice maker. I think this is a juice maker, right? The mission. Now to make juice. Juice maker mission, what they do? They cut all the fruits to make small, right? Now we have to use this text to mix our mind. Right? Yeah, you have to, how is that? A blender our mind. then this is a very great teaching. It composed for Dharmarakshita. Composed Dharmarakshita. He teach for the Atisha. Atisha. They both India masters. Then Atisha come to Tibet and he teach lot of teachings. Then also he teach the London Migaro. Injila.
Georgia.
Georgia London.
Lab on the path to enlightenment.
Lab of the path of enlightenment. Then he came to India, I think I already told this many times. Then the Lalama Ishigot, he asked to Georgie, give that to easy understand short version for the Tibetans, because Tibetans are very lazy, also very, not sharp,
Not very clever.
Not very clever. Therefore, very short, easy, also whole meaning. Then he teach the Atisha the lamp. Because the lamp,
Lamp on the path to enlightenment.
lamp, read the short tracks. Then this is a man. He sent back to this copy for India. Usually India, the Nalanda monasteries who compose the teaching, you're not allowed to print. You need to show all the masters printed out. Then everybody pass each paper. Then everybody says, "Oh, it is very amazing. It's Georgie. He went to Tibet and it's good for us. If he stay here, he doesn't teach this for us. He went to Tibet and he also teach this very short whole meaning. Then everybody for pass this text. Then this is begins a commentary in a Kanjur, whole Kanjur. Then Lamdran. Then Lama Tsongkhapa also he give the commentary, the Lamram Chemo. Read big thing, 3 books, 3 volumes read. It's usually the Atisha the lamp, part of lamps, just a couple pages. Then Lama Tsongkhapa and I give the commentary and the Lamram. Then also then many other Lamrams, many Lamas give. I think we usually call 8 Lamram Tushin Je. Then they
Yeah, so there are many commentaries, like that of the Lamrim teachings.
Also, now I think there's 18 different commentaries. Holiness Dalai Lama, he gave that all the commentary transmission last year in India, almost 2 weeks. He finished half. Now this year also he's going to give the end of the December. All the commentary, a lot of huge 5 books. Maybe this much thick, the 5 books, whole Lamram. All the Lamrams, there's commentary of the Atisha's lamp with more teaching. Then this text we call Lojong, also Lama Dharmarakshita, he give the teach for the Choji Padya Atisha. He taught, right? He taught for Atisha. And Lama Dharmarakshita and Choji Lama Resra.
So Dharmarakshita passed down this teaching to Lama Atisha.
And it Shadda Dharmarakshita Sehate and it's same to my Baris, Shirama.
So Dharmarakshita, by view, he is a proponent of the Vaivashika school.
And the Choji Lama selling Basaya, same Tawas Dengita, and Shanchip Semji Danga so Nizatita, Choji Nizatita, coin Baris.
And then other teacher of Lama Tisha, the Lama Selingpa, also by view, he is the proponent of the mind-only school, but he is the main source of the teaching on the Bodhisattvas, the Bodhisattva ground, Bodhisattva path, and so he is one of his main guru from whom he received the teachings on Bodhicitta.
근데 이제 다 네가 안에 배샤도 좀 봐봐도 이제 다 실험하고 따왔음 등이 다 담아라시다 해야 돼 말했어.
And so anyway, this text on the will of sharp weapon, which is composed by Dharmarakshita, actually he is a proponent, of the Vaivashika school.
그렇죠? 먼저 다 남발아야 다 그래 전담하고 시어로 왔어.
And so there are four, tenets, right? Four schools of thoughts or tenets in Buddhism. So the first one is the Vaivashika school.
그렇죠? 근데 임바에서 옛날 다네 배샤인데 좀비 갑라야 아니 다 엄마 단집에 따와 섬댕이던데 임바에서 배샤들 나온다. 내가들은 요 송도 쓰러와.
But anyway, so this at the time when he was composing this text, in some commentary it says that he is a proponent of the Prasangika Madhyamika school.
근데 나 시 전에 실험하고서 다 대화 친구 딱 개mel은 바이 말했더라.
And so in general, the proponents, proponent of the Vaivashika school don't accept the Mahayana, Mahayana path. They don't accept Mahayana path. They don't say there's a Mahayana path.
그러다가 좀다 좀 마음은 좀 치서로 왔어.
The Mahayana path, as the teachings of the Buddha, they don't accept the Mahayana path, to be the teachings of the Buddha. So those of you who have studied tenets, you might know about this already, right?
아니 취탐조 랑윤이 들어봐. 내 맞춰 와케는 게 그래서.
And so they accept, that there is the things are existing from their one side, and things are existing truly, from their one side.
어떤데 다 네가 대화 친구 로종 투장쿨로 써야 되고 아니 다 나도 집에 다운즈 랑윤이 들어봐. 좀바테 다 맞아 저우는 거 저우레스. 아니 소문도 잠발라다 대화 좀 캔랭이 된다 엄마 단지에 따와 캔랭 등이 임베 이게 다 임바테다 배션들 때는 고요레스더니 요래 들어와.
And so because here in this text it all talks about how to destroy that inner enemy, right, the delusions. And so the inner enemy, the root of all the inner enemy is the grasping at the self-existent or the true existent. And so when it talks about destroying that self-existent, self-existent, the grasping of the self-existent, then already understands that it is talking about the Mahayana teachings.
그래서 내가 대화 친구로 좀서 먼저 대화 충으로 좀서 다 배적 가장 거라는 만도 왔어.
And so also it talks about the mind training, the Mahayana mind training. It doesn't say Hinayana mind training, right?
그래와. 그래서 대화 제주 써야 돼다 삼배 제소거든 자고 그랬어.
And so whether it's Mahayana or Hinayana, depends on the thoughts.
그래와. 아니 나도 깨워 준비 쳐서 써야 돼. 대화 제주 생각도 다 남아랑 공부지로 왔어.
So we talk about the three scopes, right? The small, medium, and large, in a great scope, or capable beings, and also we talk about the Mahayanas and the Hinayanas, so the lower vehicles and the higher vehicles.
근데다 다 전담하고 시나네 아니 년투다 라자 되니 다 태미지 전담하 와서도 라고 그랬어.
And so the hearers and solitary riders among the three.
시라마와도 너도 있었다. 시라마와도 되더니 신도니 태미지 전담하고 건사서.
So the first two tenets, the Vaivashika and the Sautantika, Vaivashika and Sautantika, are said to be the schools of the the Hinayana tenets.
그러와. 아니 샘자마다 오마바니 다 대화 좀 전담하고 건사서 라고 그랬어.
And then of course the mind only school and the middle way school are said to be the Mahayana school.
어떻게
Mahayana tenets.
그러와. 근데 인자다 시라마바다 너 대화니 와서 되게 아니 건다라자 되게 좀 많아. 건사 따져서 모든 좀 많이 다 아니 고에 짜와래 대방하나 아니 고와래 좋아래 다 텔레 다 라야 안도사요 말해서 나도 더 찌듯 개는 그랬어.
And so according to the Vaivashika and Sautantika, the first two schools, according to them, grasping at the person or a phenomena as existing self-sufficient and substantially, and and being empty of permanence, unitary, and independent, is the root of the cycle existence. And when you abandon that, and then you achieve liberation. And so, according to them, there's only one final liberation.
어디시 대양 안에 라니 쭉 돈도 타왔다는 요 마도 안에 semje 얘기 된다. 다 삼로 땅에 매와 임바레스.
And also, they only think about themselves. I mean, not only, but they mostly think about themselves, and only strives, to achieve enlightenment for themselves alone. I mean, liberation for themselves alone.
다 안에 대화 전부 가다 세와 대다 semje 탐적거다 상제 공부하세요. 상지고 셈세야지. 계고 돈도 semje 탐적거다 다 내가 제요레스.
Whereas the Bodhisattvas, work for the benefit of all sentient beings. So they think of achieving enlightenment or becoming Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings.
너 삼로 땅땅이 자네 다 지금 대화 지주다 자성하러 왔어.
And so that is differentiated, whether it's the Mahayana school or the Hinayana school, great vehicle or a lesser vehicle, depends on the thought.
그래서 다 존조 다 좀다가 뭐 가게 공 니살잖아.
So what do you think you fall into? Which school do you think you fall into?
너도 라야도 다 대화 전부 강사 인라고요. 그래서 삼로 대땅교 너도 랍랍고요. 와서.
So of course you claim to be Mahayanist, right? Mahayana?
Anybody say all sentient beings are happy, right? 얘나 다 의외에서 다 랄레다는 레온 참말라 다 파시 간도 대화 충분하라야 파시 랩토요 말했어.
So of course we claim to be Mahayana practitioner, but when we really practice, I don't think we can even fall into the Hinayana.
가나 콘좀 고알에 줘대. 나도 고아 줘서는 좀 당에 매웠어. 세인디가 대화 되는 이거 등하도 잘 답심이 매워.
Because even the Hinayanas, think about achieving liberation or being free from cycle existence, whereas we're always busy just thinking about this life, right?
Yes.
Is Hinayana and Theravada the same?
안 되지 말았어.
Yes.
They're the same. Why do they have different names?
가요.
Yes.
다 테라바라서 다 상계 계속이 왔어. 나도 시랑 본데 다 백해로 인간 가라.
맞아. 테라바라서 Hinayana 니자들아.
네, 이제 때문에 바로. 다 미가는데 테라바라서 가리 미는 가시. 너무 백해로 시랑 본데 가라. 네, 다 가리 때문에 바로. 때문에.
Yeah, it's the same. It's just different name. The same school, but it's just different name. They both are Sanskrit terms. When you say Hinayana and Theravada, so they both are Sanskrit terms. So Geshe say, we don't know why, but they seem to be the same.
아마도 좀다 오마들이야. 좀다 오마. 좀다 고마도 오마세지.
어떻게 좀 먼저 대박 대면 계시고 이제.
정말 중에서는 대화면 봐서 되잖아. 대화문도 있었다. 좀다 오마스.
So don't know why there's different name, but anyways, it has the same meaning. Yeah.
Yes, Deborah, you know.
Well, because I used to practice Hinayana, and it's sort of a pejorative term. Because it means Geshe vehicle. Those holiness explained it doesn't really, it's not really have pejorative meaning, but it's sort of easy to think that. So they adopted Theravada, but Theravada is actually, there used to be 18 schools of Buddhism.
Yeah.
And that was just one of the 18. And that's the only one that's remaining, or the one book, the name that's known. So they just took that name and used that interchangeably.
So one's a subset of the other, right? Hinayana, there used to be other Hinayana.
땡면스는 멤버 찍어라. 야뭐 말았어. 난 테라바라서 내가 건들 때서 야가 찍어라.
Theravada is one of the 18 schools of Hinayana.
Correct.
Okay.
It's got less of a pejorative
Right,
meaning
I think that's
than a
what it's
lower
called.
vehicle is more just the name of a
Right.
lineage.
Yeah.
그래 다 데라 좀다 좀 제서요. 로스. 디나는 뭐 배라 타와도 탐조 옆밤에 왜 대화서 해지. 다른 들어봐.
가들?
네베다. 로 시라
내가 좁지.
더 좁지.
So yeah, there are 18 schools, of the Vaibhashika school, Vaibhashika tenets. So they all belong to the Vaibhashika tenets. And so there's one of these schools that kind of flourished in Tibet is called the view that assert the existence of all.
간지 대란 가와드시라 간지 테메 딱 군주 냠내시야 간주 대신배가 냠내 매져게 말이 딱 매져더니 말. 근데 내외가 냠내도 차성다 나가서 테메가 냠내 직보직장했어. 저거지네 말.
So in terms of the practice, there's no much different. Everything that is practiced in the Hinayana school is also practiced in the Mahayana school, especially in terms of the Vinaya, about the rules, the disciplines, is all same. What is practiced in the Theravadan or the Hinayana school is the same that is practiced in the Mahayana school. So it's just in terms of the thought, it's all same. Yeah.
다 삼로 땅땅 전에 간지 안에 섬제 탐적 대원도 다 간지 상대고 운동 섬제 탐적 동안다 자도 고 운동 상매들랑 간도 대신 봐서 다 소소 주보만 상매들 안에 다 테메 봐서 로직.
So in terms of the thought, then those who think that I must achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings is the Mahayana, and those who think I want to achieve liberation for myself alone, mainly for myself alone, and if one thing like that, then that's the Hinayana.
다 시당전 아티는 바다 십자진도는 다 테스트 말로 다 해야죠 was.
So in general, it's like that, But then if you go into more detail, then you can say, they don't only think about them; they think about others as well. They have compassion and so forth,
그렇죠. 근데 간도 제ව 춘리 치었음 생각도 라고도 와 제ව 춘부 남냠슬 남발라 제원 링이다 춘이가 내는도 그래서 좀 자야요 말로.
So in the practice of the small, medium, and great scope, before you can practice, the great scope's path, you have to go through the practice of the small scope and the medium scopes. So without going through the medium scope and small scope, there's no way you can jump, up, to the great scope's path.
그렇죠. 다 된리가 아니 제ව 춘리 치었음 생각이 간이셔도요. 삼로 땅땅 전하셔요.
And so that's the difference between the small, medium, and great scope is again, in terms of the thoughts, the way you think.
베나라닛 내송의 동안은 지시 짜네 뒤쳐다 아닌 곳이니 된서 아니 단존이가 저와 뭐더 레전드 점로 두고라 som마당들라 다 제중에 들어와 라니 내송의 동안.
And so if you are mainly interested in to be free from the sufferings of the lower realm, and then just want to achieve the happiness of the higher state, and for that, if you engage in the practice of the guru devotions and the prophet human rebirth and so forth, then that becomes the practice of the small scope.
다 가로 내송 동안에 다나 대는 지금다 단다 동안에 담다 다 거기 동안에 타고 온도 선데 아니 대지란도라서 봐 아니 삼로 땅땡들라 다 단계 들어 옆에 땅 뛰네 그러와 신이 돼서 아니 단전 내가 처음부터 옆에 뛰라야 아니 대지란도 잘안내는 삼로 땅들라 아니 제원 링스.
And then, so then if you think that, it is not sufficient just to be free from the suffering of the lower realm, I have to free, because even if I'm born in an upper state, as a human or a god, I'm still, within the nature of suffering. There's still a lot of sufferings that I have to go through, and so I have to, free myself, from the entire suffering of the cycle existence. And in order to do that, I think that, I'm going to engage in this practice, on top of engaging in the practice of the guru devotion, the prophet human rebirth and so forth, then you engage in the practice of the Four Noble Truths, the noble truths, that is to be abandoned and that is to be cultivated.
다 대유비들 당한 고외 동안에 나라타는 적음도 다 나다가 선진 탐식 고와다 동에서 동안에 지시도 안 되죠. 고와다 동에서 동안에 지비 저베다 다 사지 고마도 되는 간도 컨트롤 펜토치고 그 삼벨로 징들라 다 대화체 모스.
And then on top of that, again, you think it is not good enough just for myself to be free from suffering. There are numberless beings who've been very kind to me, so I can't just leave them all in the suffering and liberate myself alone. It's not a good way, not a good manner. And so instead of doing for myself alone, just like me, they don't want to suffer. So in order to free them from all these sufferings, I'm going to achieve enlightenment. And so for that reason, I'm going to engage in these practices. So when you do with that thought, then that becomes the Mahayana or the great scopes practice. So you can think now where you fall into. Yeah. Honestly, be honest to yourself.
You don't need to say. But if I guess, include me by myself, anybody, maybe not anyone there.
So in my opinion, I don't think any of us fall into any of into the Mahayana scopes, Mahayana path. So because mostly we're only thinking about this life.
Right? Anyway, future, future my life, if you don't think we don't think after die, we just think about this, what called future, or how you say that. Therefore, any chui tewa chimbu chui by mapes, ta kanza tewa chimbu to the sabai go,
So it is not enough, for the teaching to be of that of Mahayana. It is important for the person to become a Mahayanist.
There is a person the tewa chimbu yawala ta na sam ta ko ni jo tang ko yures.
And then how person becomes Mahayanist, is by changing the thoughts inside, the inner thought.
Ta tindi ta lo nyamle lo so cheta ta pechen di bolo song yures.
And so how to bring, that kind of thought, it is explained in this text.
Then de la tewa chimbu lo so lagam, tewa chung lo so lagam was.
So it is called the Mahayana mind training. It doesn't say Hinayana mind training, right?
다 tewa chimbulo the kani jango re, tewa chimbu salmata da kani re, ta te kani tango re salap go res.
And so how do we? So here it explains about how do we think, to make it Mahayana, Mahayana thought, Mahayana practice.
다 tewa chimbu kansa se ta kani yo da la ben bas, kanji arang ya wa to je jiwan zimbe ga. Ani kansa se ga tenju salmata de le tewa chimbu so.
And so what kind of person is called the Mahayana person? So someone who neglects oneself and cherishes others. And so with that thought, then engages in the practice. That kind of person is called Mahayanist.
No telaya ani aranda jeni nga ta jen zon zeng ji. Ta tendi kansa ji ga tewa chimbo so. Tewa chimbo lo jong ase no.
So someone who cherishes others more than oneself.
Then others had any Jada Nyenda Palmameva Chasanta, Tanim Tangi go race.
So someone, when we call others, so think about others. So first you have to think of others as being indifferent, not as a friend, not as enemy, but just indifferent.
Also, I think maybe it's parents, when the kids are maybe under 13 years old, the parents, they think about more than themselves to their kids. So
they think about the kids more than themselves.
Maybe under teenagers. I don't know. Of that little bit, then start to troublemaker. They say, not all of them, This also usually I say, this is a very bad habit. But custom, even if the parents say, "Oh, he's a teenager," they can do it. The kids say, "Okay, I'm a teenager. I have to do," But they not today. So le ta so put such a tigre that but tigre na te te wade so chape on gare masako yangachi semti ga mares.
And so that kind of thinking about the kids, caring about the kids more than oneself, is out of attachment, right? out of attachment for the kid, not really out of wish to achieve enlightenment. Right?
He's completely fresh.
Right.
fresh. Yeah, fresh father. Yeah, fresh twins father. If there's no attachment, we have to also same ego all the kids, but we have not same, right? We have said my kids means more strong.
And then sometimes it's not about attachment, it's about hatred as well.
tenri yinpa ta tenri ga right tenri ga ma chi be pala chebe tsewa na ji semji kanga la chewa ina ta tewa chung lo chung wa se ta ngam to tse chu yo res semji chasa la dra do nyen da pa ma chasa la.
So if you think about all sentient beings, whether they are enemies, friends, or strangers, if you think of all sentient beings as and care about this, all sentient beings just as you would care about your one-day child, then you will be a Mahayanist.
o tewa chung lo chung wa sa ro tenri da ta tenri ga semji tamjila tenri lo che ga lo da ta kundu kan ji de che wa re ta ngandu de kan ji che go re ta pa chen de bol te song go re.
And so this text explains how the Bodhisattva was generated that kind of mind, and how we can generate this kind of mind.
tenri da ta shir sanje chom den de chuji phumba jen de chindu ta song wa ba re ro.
So generally, Buddha Shakyamuni taught 84,000 heaps of doctrine.
tenri da tunzu chasang chi de je ji chi nyumo ba na re da ayen de na re che ga thapsi ma ten gi ta ma shin gi ta pesha chi cho me wa ba re.
So there isn't any of that doctrine, which doesn't explain, about how to eliminate, each and every kind of delusions, from the mind of the sentient beings, and how to achieve the excellent qualities of enlightenment.
tenada lojong sewate ani semji ani nyongmo ba pa tab da ani yende te chetab ke tabshi tembe ge pesha dala ani lojong se ta tendi ke tabshi sozo nyamne chewata lojong as la go was.
So the mind training text, is a method, for eliminating sufferings and achieving happinesses.
o tendi yimba inza ta sanji chomden de ga song yimba ina ta nganzo lojong yimbe chap srap chore de chada.
So it's a method, to achieve happiness and to eradicate the sufferings. And so any kind of teachings of the Buddha can be called mind training.
다 이나야 다야 지 로종다 람종니 데 집에 로종스나야 다 소소 양미 가가지 다야 또다 로종다 짱짱한 거 믹스간에 손대 같은 돌아 놓고 해서 왔어.
But then when you talk about the mind training in particular case, then it's only talking about certain kind of certain ways of training the mind. It's called mind training. Not every kind of teaching is called mind training.
어디 다 든데마다 다 감디 대화 친구 로종세 다 배전다 로종 전장 콜로스 전자세나 당간도 빼러왔어. 간송한지 미신 단다 주스도 미신이 왔던 속이 다 간지 후르도 간갔다 시기도 매워 소저가 간지 전자도 소소가 문토쇼 작고거나 작은가 꼭 희고거나 희곡 차서 매워다 님뭐 갑도 때는 매워 소도 여러봤어. 빼 대다 찍봐 다 빼잔데 아니 다 소자도 찍바래서 로종 네 제자딘 소자도 찍바래서 다 네가 파 매워 소거야 간 소자 티가 갑대 매워 소거가 갔나 다 다치 라니 집안데 베진즈 원단데 말해서 와.
And so this is called a weapon, right? The sharp weapon, the will of sharp weapon. And so the weapon, usually is used, to destroy the enemies, to destroy the opponent, right? So, earlier we were talking about a blender or a mixer, to that, cuts or blends and everything, all the fruits or vegetables and like that. And so, and then also we can use other kind of, machinery, tools, which destroys, all the grass, the wood, the bushes and so forth. So anyway, so the main thing is to to destroy that, to get rid of that, right? And so here, this is the mind training or the practice, that destroys all these delusions in our mind. Therefore, it's called the will of sharp weapon.
그러와 tenida da chindenji yenten yen chindenji ane mar da chindenji ken yen chindenji yenten ane sambe das kare samlo tantar tembe ga dhamma chewa chejila ta lojong chonchang ko los.
And so because it relates with the Mahayana practice, so therefore the biggest obstacle to the Mahayana practice is thinking about oneself, the self-cherishing attitude, right? And so here, the main delusion to be destroyed is the self-cherishing attitude, self-grasping, self-cherishing attitude. And so that is done by thinking about the disadvantages of the self-cherishing attitude and thinking about the advantages, the good qualities, the advantages of thinking about others, cherishing others.
그러와 어드레다 딱 배잔디 단디 마셔서말라 아는 천지돈 용구돈 오늘 죽었던데 저당 삽전도 없음 시간도 들어와.
And so when it is taught, when it's explained, when this text is explained, it explains explains in the three different categories,
천지돈
and so meaning of the words and the meaning of the text,
오늘 죽었던
and then the meaning of the conclusion.
conclusion와 다단 세대라 가르나 로종 천장 콜로 자오 내람바빈 천진 콜로 샤와스 다 민데레스와.
And so this is the title, right, of the text, the will of sharp weapon. It says the name of this work is the will of sharp weapon, effectively striking the heart of the foe.
어떻게 되네다다 담보 로종 세딩이 저도 라이 봤다. 너 로종에 대 아니 란이 집안데 진짜 대지 다때 메워서가 되지 아니 티종가 쪼가 돼 전 집안데 연대서 와 전 진짜 로 되지 다 되니 장시가 아니 다 빼셔서 왔다라 다 냠내달라 전장 콜로스까지 다 메워서지 너 진짜 메워서지 빠지 대 갑자기 장에서 그러.
And so, like I said earlier, the delusion, that is, to be abandoned here, is the self-cherishing attitude. So any practice, that is, utilized to overcome that is called the will of the sharp weapon here.
난 콜로는 간지마지 콜로된 콜네 디가 쓰고 뚜고 가는 거 매와서요 봤어.
And so, by using the will, the will of the will of the sharp weapon, you destroy whatever has to be destroyed, like cutting or chopping and things like that, right?
그래서 다 제집안들 별로 더 인간의 경우서 말라 아랑 집안들 별로 더 매로 맞춘다고 그래서.
And so, when you think about others more than thinking about oneself, will become less and less, right?
그래. 나 샤방에 경우서 막 콘로 맞춘다고 돼. 저도 니제 삼사 이들은 것도 콘로 사면 왔어.
Is that right? So when you think about the love, the hatred will automatically be, subsided, right? You can't be loving somebody and hating the person at the same time, right?
삼점이 베게를 베래. 다 대간제 양치 양 차박 다 가지 가서 양 오다듯이 다든 로지. 근데 인반선도 아라 집안들 로디 갑대대 젠집안들 로디 말에 그래서 다 젠집안들 로디 다 인연의 제가 답이시고 그래 대장고 그래 들어와.
And so the attitude that destroys the self-cherishing attitude, is the attitude cherishing others, right? So more you cherish others, and then the less cherishing there will be for oneself, right?
그래서 다 다단데 태와 침묵 제와 침묵 냠내서 내한테 제와 중당这个 통을 하는 바 신년 때서 단조니까 저와 못도 봐 잠로 렌데서지 다 고아 서로 요구 그래서.
And so because it is the great scope's path that we are trying to study or practice, so therefore we should have proceeded with all those practice of the small and the medium scopes. So thinking about the guru devotion, the death and impermanence, the prophet and rebirth, the death and impermanence, refuge, karmic law of cause and effect, and so forth. So all those practices should be already preceded, right?
와 아니 제원 링가 나토몰라죠 아니 년주다 대지 란도로서 왔다 가서 또 자상 년도 손대면 강사지겠다 내지 빼셔들로 제고 그래서
And same with the practice of the medium scopes, like so we should have already proceeded with the practice, of renunciation and about the practice of the Four Noble Truths and so forth.
나 간제 동소징아도 강마로 잡나 파운데이션도 그래서 파운데이션도.
So those are like the foundation, when we're building a house.
그봐. 아니 가서 얘들 시집하느라 토모 남전 내대 저와나 대화 근지 조지 도지 텍스트 맞아 배설랑도 왔어. 근데 토모 남전도 누소래서.
And so this is the common path that we have to have practiced first, before engaging in the uncommon path. So here in this case, the Mahayana path will be the uncommon one, right? And so the common one will be the Hinayana or the small scope and the medium scope path. And so just like it is said in the foundation of all good qualities, so when you have trained in the common path, then we should enter into the vehicles, or the vehicle, of the Vajrayanas.
어때리자 다 남아서 맞아다 가도 저도 다 냠을 로라만 버전도 강가 저도 신경을 봤어.
So since you already studied and practiced for many years, you know all those common practices, right?
I think I believe you guys know. I don't know if you do practice or not, but I know you guys know. But if you do or not, I don't know. 되지. 다 저거 내가 비빈 도전 걸로 되는 거야. 다 저거 써야 저거 다 니라 다 놓줘야기. 다 도전 걸로 그래서.
So it is said the wheel weapon that strikes at the enemy's vital spot.
그봐. 데레다 저거세다 다 싫은 짓나 안에 달아 주신이다 주민이다 니요레스.
So generally talking about the enemies or the foe, there are two kinds. The internal and external enemies. So physical, form and formless enemies.
그런데 다 주신이 다 써야 돼. 다 가서 먹인 통제와 간신 소속을 자세 년세 지지대 가서 통제와 리지원서 다 주신이 다래스.
And so the visible, the enemies, or the enemies with the form, will be those we can see, we can hear, and we can punch and so forth.
Maybe you were call workers. Scared call workers, right? If we get angry, we mostly get who is close for us. We get angry at them, right? We fight for them. We cannot reach for other very far away. Who people live in maybe California or New York. We don't get. If we get angry at them, we don't get much to argument or talk with them. More things. Husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, neighbors, the co-workers, we have to always argue, right? All than the internet. You guys, nice fingers, yesterday, holding the say, is a curse. Karo. No, I forgot. This is a very... Oh, what did he say? No, I forgot. Maybe I forgot. Wonderful. I remember. What did that draw said the country? And I'm going to near Zuchin Zumini rest. That Zuchin Rang to love him, boss.
So the visible enemies are the one that I explained.
And then Zumiji does say the young Antochi, that Namju, young Tony Meagach, Dreda. Don't know say never think a to was your rest,
and then there's a formless, right? The formless external, the formless enemies. So the formless enemies can be those like spirits, like who cause harm to our spirits, ghosts.
So, 다 깜디가 자세디 다 라니 집안집이 지네들라 자세미다 그래서.
And so, but in this context, the formless enemy, is that the inner enemy, the self-cherishing attitude, is to be the enemy here.
다 대가도 소소죠. 가도 때 달치기 말이 저도 때 달치기 왜서. 가도 지기 말해서 와.
So we normally don't consider that as our enemy, right? self-cherishing attitude.
Drive by Shingo to the Shingo.
We don't recognize that as enemy, right? Do we recognize that as enemy?
That's you take to teach the drive by Shingo Mares.
We don't consider that as an enemy. We don't, recognize that as an enemy, right?
What's that? Yena Yans. They going to Jares.
However, that is our real enemies.
Nandu dash at the Karatina, so never king itla, not to dust here was.
So the reason applies to this because, when we say enemy is somebody who cause harm to us, right?
Tenri the Rani Chiban be Rani Chu changing low tigi. Nandu ting low tig jiliju. Te Jubala tene. Tang kowa toma mena tati badang kuwe dungi jamsan na dunga nyo jamba, nyowa njaba, nyo sambata da tendriga ta lo tiga samsara nga zu jugni, ta nga zu dunga nyawa imba res, tendriga ta daso de res.
And so because all the sufferings that we experience is because of the self-cherishing attitude. Self-cherishing attitude is the one who gave us all the sufferings that we experienced in the past, that we are experiencing at the present, and that we will experience in the future. All this suffering came from self-cherishing attitude. So the self-cherishing attitude is the one who gave all these sufferings, right? Therefore, it's the real enemy.
Tate nga zu kowa lagmada nga ranchiban be chidi nga la dunga tege wa chudu shigmada was.
So do you understand that self-cherishing attitude gives sufferings to us?
Ta nga zo samlo shepchano pa tangwa ina. Nga zo kondo sagndo wa. Kani kondo sagndo.
And so if we think in details, that we will understand how this self-cherishing attitude gives suffering to us. So for example, when we become angry, we become unhappy, right?
Tende unhappy or kondo da kani sagyo. Kondo sasaji tanganzo mache tanganzo mil sagar was.
And so the unhappiness that we experience, the suffering that we experience, from becoming angry, so usually who do we become angry at? Usually to the people, right? Person.
The nomads angry, the cows, the yaks. That doesn't come to what that, then they get angry. That doesn't listen for them, then angry. But most people angry. People, right? Then why angry? We are thinking, he or she, whatever I lack, they doesn't do this. Whatever I say, he or she doesn't listen or he doesn't do that. The main thing's me, right? Me. Rani chinza rang, ta susu something lo the was. Ta do someone teni something tell them susu kondo da kondo so machi we dungate see yore tawat de ta rani chimba de belondra was.
So why do you become angry is because somebody didn't listen to you. Why do I become angry is because somebody didn't listen to me, right? So I am thinking about myself, right? And didn't listen to me, didn't do what I said, didn't follow my advice and so forth. So all this I, right? So thinking about oneself, and because of that we become angry.
What is shaitan ani decha shaitan tumusa mamboina tinanga kangiga tsawa te ta rani cheban de lote imbaida ta te mewaso go res te drawing bangoshi go res.
And so there are many of these delusions that are our enemy, which gives rise to all these sufferings, like attachment, anger, and so forth. But self-cherishing attitude is the main one, so we should understand that. So when you think about it, does it make sense?
소소 간지 내 사만노지 책임도 ngal goya chengmu chu te yong da ngo kanga samlo tan da ngo pe yana te la wa chu ma su te samlo tan de su lo la ten treg de yes.
And so whenever we become angry or become jealous, and so forth, it's all because of thinking about I, right? Thinking about oneself.
pe cha cha ngo jimba to le ne long shun jung ro se de ngo lo la ngo goya o nyeg ma do chu nyeg de yes.
So that we can, we don't have to follow the text, right? We don't have to follow text. We can understand by investigating ourselves, right? But in the case of like other practices where it says by practicing generosity you'll become wealthy, that doesn't make sense, right? In general, that is very. Of course, it makes sense, but it is not easy to understand, right?
다 테마인 바지. 야 라니 집은 별로 텔라테니 땅이라 공조야 제원도. 차도야 제원도. 대차야 제원도. 삼빌로데 춘도 먼저 다 파삼도 와야는 테리비 제와는 제와는 것도 로라. 대화 마 대도 와서.
And so, if we think about the self-cherishing attitude, and then think that, and so because of that self-cherishing attitude, then there comes attachment, there comes jealousy, there comes anger, and so forth, right? So that is easy to follow. That's easy to follow, right?
어떻게 다 자오세데 다 란체마데 로텔라 아니 자오세데 땡유섬 내람 바바스나 다 그래 땡데 포고상 어디다 아 그래 포바 땡비 빼빼서 그 이러스.
And so that is the enemy, and then it's a strike, the vital point, is to the point to which, by striking at which, it will destroy the enemy completely.
빼차샤와이나 먼저 샘전로 지단로 세고이나 속자 소라니 다 나도 가진 대자와나 그 샘전에 조고 가두고 세도 그래. 와 대만이 뭐지 강반로 제 라반로 제 선로 제와나 아니 가두가도 시도가 말와 세도가 말와 대도 치바레스와.
And so it's similar, to trying to kill animal or something, or somebody, person or something. So if you know the vital point or spot of that person's body or the animal's body, and you strike at that spot, then that will kill the enemy or the animal or the person immediately, right? And so if you don't strike at the vital point, instead you keep on hitting on others, like if you keep breaking the hands, breaking the leg, the person will not die, right? So if you hit, if you shoot or hit right at the heart, then the person or the animal will die immediately.
근데 이제 다 랑치바드베 젠즈데 조데다 되게 갑자기 젠치바드베 젠즈 로데야 다 그래 소소구치 냠내 제도가 제와이나 다그 갑자기 다 내도 포와 다 텔트라밍이 되래서 봐.
And so if you practice cherishing others, if you practice cherishing others, then that is like the vital point. That's like hitting the vital point, because cherishing others will destroy cherishing oneself.
라와 아니 트자란 케나 아니 데믹 춘주되건 트자 첨보지 내라고 고치도 그러더라. 내도 보이나? 트지 내도 보나? 아니 다들 빼지 그랬어. 네. 갈래 신전 개발도 신이도 제 내라고 제 그랬어. 아니 샘제 세 개가도 아니 샘제가 속 내라고 제 그랬어. 아니 트자란 개발도 다 데믹 춘주되까지 아니 단단다 스톱 쳐야다 단단다 놓아야다도 주유되게도 내가 내려고 제도 그래야지 어디에 빼드니 그랬어 개와 내다도 들은 개와이나.
And so so there's an example of like being able to hit, and when you're cutting a tree, there's the way you hit it, where you cut the tree. And so if you're skilled in that, then you can cut the tree very easily. And then same with, like I said earlier, if you are slaughtering animal, if you know exact, vein to cut, to slaughter the animal, and you cut that just small vein in the huge body of the animal. If you just cut the main vein, then that will, kill the animal easily, quickly. So you have to know exact, point, the vital points, to which, by striking to which, you will be able to kill or destroy the enemy.
What it is that 다 로종다 자오 다친자 랑치바드베 젠데 아니 날람베 당아 손자 nombodan 자와 텔람베 자오 텔람베 소장 콜로데 다 라고레스.
And so this is the will of sharp weapon that strikes at the enemy's vital spot. It's called the mind training, of the Mahayana path, the will of a sharp weapon.
어다테 미지로와.
So that's the meaning, of the word, the name, the title.
어든 된디 자텔라 도 라니 제반데 베칭데 대죠 아니 대 메바송이 로테 다 이제 제반데 베칭데 로테레스 대 데리 로테 손잔 모두 찍바래 대 라치반데 베칭데 로테 다 메발레라고 소도 그래서요.
And so the enemy that is to be destroyed here is the self-cherishing attitude, and the weapon that destroys this enemy is the the mind that cherishes others more than oneself. And so with that then one can destroy that the enemy, the self-cherishing attitude.
다 조신지체라 상자로스 배는 건도스.
And so at the beginning of the text it says, I pay heartfelt homage to you, Yamantaka.
어디 된저기 다 조신지 시에서야 돼 상자자가 아니 조서야 돼 아니 오늘 라니 좋은 준비가 라니 집안 준비가 로 랍든 트레이딩에서 막 댐 갑자기 장이가 아니 자세 상급 선바다 안에 사제다 상급 선바 도서라 상자요 레스로 조거서 단 도서든 다라니 집안도 비는 조요 레스 되게 자원원에 란치만도 비치는 거 로고 자원원에데 다 상급을 셈다 이게 정보다 어떤 소리에서 상급 선배지 도서라 상자요 인스 대응이든지 아니 조신시다 장도지 신시다 아니 잠배한 거 좋아 자도 좋아 잠배가 좋아 아니 다 나도 동의해요 아니 이담 아니 이제 그다 보려는 상자가 예상으로 해서.
And so it says Yamantaka, right? So I bow down to you, to the great and wrathful one, Yamantaka. And so the Yamantaka here, so you know Yama, right? So Yama means the death, the Lord of Death. Taka is the butcher of the Lord of Death, so the one who slaughters or kills the Lord of Death. So the Lord of Death here again also is referring to the the enemy that we're talking about here, the self-cherishing attitude, right? So that's the Lord of Death, and then so that which destroys, that Lord of Death, the self-cherishing attitude, is the cherishing others, So the bodhicitta, like the thought that cherishes others, or the altruistic attitude, the great compassion, loving kindness, and so forth. So those are the mind, that destroys. So those are the butcher or the slaughter, of the of this Lord of Death. So those are the one that is referring to here, the one it says Yamantaka. And so that is the definitive, the meaning. The interpretive meaning will be again here, Yamantaka, is the wrathful aspect of Manjushri, right?
많이 Yamantaka rapondo 주는 토녀. Do you guys saw the man Yamantaka picture? It's rapo, very very rapo, in a very rough of deity. tenriga rapo deity there tenne ya tiga ta ndogo ya semjito ndogo yo reserva.
And so the wrathful, aspect of the Manjushri is Yamantaka. It was very in a very wrathful aspect, and so there is a way, there is a necessary for coming in that kind of aspect, and to subdue sentient beings, certain sentient beings in that way.
맞아. 아니 예담 된제 다 사제에서 막 된제 공로사 되게 되요 말이더라. 이나다 섬지 가시 야 내가 답시 제대로 된 거요래.
So so in some aspect, the deities show that aspect of the terrorizing, the sentient beings and so forth. And so this is the deities or the Buddhas, that come in that wrathful form. It's like showing like they're very angry and so forth. But of course, in real life, the Buddhas don't have anger at all, so they don't become angry. But they are showing that aspect, to subdue sentient beings.
와트네다 도다 마다 섬제 탐제 둥아 강가라 마 양에게 싸와 아라니 집아데 젠들라 랍도 초딩이고 초 아니 자도 상주 선바다 아니 상제나도 돌아 상자기 인세로.
And so that's the interpretive meaning is like the Manjushri or the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who are angry, to that enemy, the self-cherishing attitude, to those Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who are angry, to the self-cherishing attitude, and I make prostration or I pay homage.
뭐로? 대리자도 다 네가 어디지 다들 상자기 인세로. 또 신시라 장도 인스 단된 관계 관계 맞지 다 대화 좀 로종 안에 상주부 셈 제들라 다전유 지고는 제다 제대면 어떤 이거는 제서 니에 나네 빠진데 다전유 지고는 제서 배전데 나마 송고서 그래서
And so by destroying that self-cherishing attitude and then perfecting, in the mind that cherishes others more than oneself, then one generates the bodhicitta, right? So then there are two ways of generating bodhicitta. By exchanging and equalizing self with others, or by following the instruction of sevenfold instructions, of the cause and effect. So here, I think mainly, it follows the path, that shows how to generate bodhicitta through equalizing and exchanging self with others.
다내 좀이 빼졌다. 다마라시타 세바티. 아니 다 상주심지 다니지는 말에 들어.
And so Dharmarakshita, who composed this text himself, is a bodhisattva.
그러. 아니 따와디 다 그때 다 제들석이로. 그때 또라 아니 사람이 따왔습니다. 그제 말도 다 상주심 다니던 인사레스. 대연배가 다 좀지셔서.
And so at the early part of his life, he followed the Vaibhashika school, which is the Hinayana tenets, right? But later, because when he, composed the text and practiced the Mahayana path and composed Mahayana text, then already shows that he followed the Mahayana tenets.
아니 니마질이야 코랑기 틀라용인다 네바식 나네 멤버라 때문에라 아니 멤버디가 다처럼 뭐 마시게 지금 샤사야라 나처럼 나다 트라사레스 대 말하는 저 트라사 말에서 라바이 말레스
미 마시니?
미 마시게 샤지 무슨 뭐 샤사야라나 아니 다때때서 사야라나 저런 트라사를 저런 맨데 시행다 저 트라사 말에서 라바이 말레스.
And so once there was this person who was very sick, and then he went to see a doctor, and then doctor told him, you have to eat a fresh human flesh, fresh human meat, human flesh. Not a meat, flesh. Right? Meat is dead, right? Flesh is alive.
다
So then if you get to eat flesh, fresh flesh of human, then you survive, you stay alive. Otherwise you die.
Don't go to see the doctors, okay? Then there's 아니 다 대지는 저건 누구세? 안단다 다마르치다 공거야 라샤네 샤트의 제네. and then the true 말이지.
And then when he heard that, when Dharmarakshita heard that, he says, "Oh, that's not a problem." He just cut, a piece of meat from his thigh, and then gave it to the sick person.
아니 강사디 똥반이 된 상집 생겨봐지. 내가 똥이 똥에서 또 와나 바지 드니 제바나 나사 매와 있어랬어. 나사 당고 말했어.
And it is said that if you are Bodhisattva, who is thinking about others, not thinking about oneself at all, and thinking about others all the time, on top of that, if you have realized emptiness directly, then you don't feel any pain at all.
그래다 콩 뒤갑라야 다 똥이가도 또 매와 있자. 아니 다 나다들凶아 말했어.
And it is said that because he has not realized emptiness directly at that time, he experienced some pain.
아니 대전 잡아라더니 다 지니가란 아니 내바드야 자네 아니 내바드다 고사 바다같이 말했어. 고나 샤팅에서 서로.
And so when the sick person, when he got better, then he went to see the person who gave him the flesh.
아니 다 저랑 간는데 오세 아니 네팔 때부터 나 네방 가 traso되나 다 저랑 앞에 다 꼴에 고소 오지 고소 그러봐 말아 샤테네 백까지 체스 다 쇼와 임바래 들어와.
And then Dharmarakshita asked him, and how is he feeling? He says, "I'm feeling good. I'm feeling better now. But how are you feeling? Because you have gone through so much pain to give me the flesh."
그래서 당 저랑 변바는 가 개요 말했어. 나 나다 문제세 다 저랑 변바이 쇼와나 아니 띵가라 개게 녹음도 다 양미세야 다 셈지야 컴퓨터 와인 말했어. 컴퓨터.
And he said, if and I'm okay, as long as it's good for you, as long as it benefited you, and I'm very happy with that. And so that increased even more bodhicitta in his mind.
아니 대네 담아지다 gond아만 예대비가라야 밀름라야. 아니 된지 미지오네 디마가라야. 제레가 지다 안에 라바바 치네. 아니 마다 갑투 trason 그럼 밀름 당하랬어.
And so at that night, then he had a dream of somebody, leaking, his wound. And so the part of the thigh where he took the flesh off, and so that he dreamed of somebody leaking, and then wiping, licking with his tongue and then wiping with his hand. He dreamed of that, and then in the dream he saw that he was completely healed.
텐디다 메데다 바바 투지 전부 히리리 자래 되네다 야 세운 사람 마차다 다 tra사 버렸어요. 뭐지 정해와 차.
So just as he dreamed, and because of his strong power of bodhicitta, thinking about others, it says the person who came and licked and wiped his wound is Avalokiteshvara. And also Avalokiteshvara. And then in the morning when he woke up and then he looked at his wound, there was no wound at all. It was completely healed.
대마세 대단에 안에 또 많이 때 둘랑게 되셨네. 오마르 소초소비 로마 샤라라 교리 원들 자성을 버렸어.
And so not only that, but then also he gained a full understanding of emptiness. He realized emptiness directly, and was able to recite all these 6 great texts of Nagarjuna.
어디에 다대 단다 빼셔도 좀 봐보대. 다마라시테 로지 툰두지는 나는 두스로.
So that was just a short story of Dharmarakshita, the composer of this text.
어디 데네자 간제 어다 조조다 된 조조에서 와서 너 자세대 샹주 삼바 아니 야면다가 돌아 샹자가 이 들어와.
And so that was the homage section of the text, and I bowed down to the great wrathful one, the Yamantaka.
들어와. 안에 된리가 샹주고 섬다 이제 들어라 샹주나 다샤 살스나 나라 고군도 나들은 도군도 나로시 있어야다 살세야 봐.
And so when you say prostration, you make prostration and then you expect something. So you make prostration, hoping something, right? When you make prostration, when you make offerings, you make offering because okay, I'm going to get married. So you have that hope, right? And so that's called prostration.
오케이. 다 들려야 되는 들링아도 돼 샤스다.
So like that. So we'll stop here for today.
되네. 저도 뒤에나 때들 로스는 때들 로나 펜도 그랬어.
And so if you have time, please do read. This will be beneficial for yourself.
로 되는 것도 갈래갈래 로스.
And then we'll go slowly through the verses.
Usually I'm very slowly person. But even if just we can 가서 승리 주고 잡으면 가도 녀마치니 좋다는 거 보세요. 가서 미시 tillas kemen kale tes reshendo kansh ngara hishingo morde nada kan tup chewana te pembe rawayos.
So of course if we want to rush we can rush, we can just read the words and then go through that, but since we are not in rush, right, nobody's in rush, right, and we have a lot of time, so we can go through slowly and get into detailed explanation as possible, although I don't know much about it myself, but just discussing here in detail will help all of us.
Okay. 근데 정말 로존의 차순서 말에 저도 자상기 다 wiliti 소소 제체반데 베치다 대마 총탄다 라치바데 베치 총탄다 레와요스.
And then at the end, when we have finished studying, then hopefully you will all have a less self-cherishing attitude.
근데 다 로존 사야 돼. 당봉아도 로존 치더니 로존 집에 된데 소소 검잡 지금 말씀. 니마 지기니도 합다 지기니도 나와 지기니 로진이 해야 돼 말해서.
So whatever study you do on the mind training, it's important to put into practice. And then slowly, then you train your mind in that way. It's not something that you can train right away in a week or a month.
근데 라라와나 변한지도 공로냐 마치 이제 삶에 같이 답시다. 사용도 못 나와서. 그래서 라라고 임바이나. 나도 공로 니마 지금 니나는 나도 공로도 다 맞추는 당 삶에 같이도 용도 못 나와서 니마 지고 자상하지 소리 강조할지 람로로 온다나 공로 sak 말해. 강에로 치는 공로 딱 걸려요 와서.
And so it is not easy to destroy the anger in our mind. It's not easy for us to not become angry, right? So just by practicing for some time, it will not be possible for us to not be angry. Of course, when things are going well, then we don't get angry. But when things are not going well, and even small thing that doesn't go well can cause us to become angry right away, right?
Tene teg tene susu ko samlo nam tok mar tan samlo Dhammarata tene susu kangi mar yongdo.
And then on top of that, we increase that anger even more by thinking more and more about more reasons. More we think about it, more bigger it becomes, right? The more angry we get.
Ngazo kangi ro na jasa jampana jasa ngapje de ngazo ngone kangi de yongwe. Jasa ngapje ngazo sem ko soja yores.
And so most of the problems that we face, maybe there's some from the problem side, but the more than 50% of that is actually created by our own mind.
Even the last week, the Tibetan daughter come here, he mentioned me. The most people come to then this country, all over in the United States, not just here. The most of the problems, they just thinking they think too much. They just create their own problems. No physical, not
the real disease.
No real disease. They just. Then he said, this country maybe looks, all the people are a lot of stressed. Stressed. Then usually when we are in India, they say United States, in China, and we say United States is very, very heaven. Everybody think about it, really heaven. But really people come to here, then, maybe their minds made very heaven. Maybe they karata kunzu. Koye yujido ta chata chaliga yoros. Koye yujido.
Because environmentally, you have all the things, right? Yeah, all the good facilities here.
But the minds maybe a little hell. They always a lot of stress. They think a lot. They worry a lot. In India, I was went to India and China. The people, I don't know, in China and Tibet, there are not much things. I don't want to talk all things because all the online. But there, if you guys cannot deal that things, but the people very relaxed. Basically, not all things that some things, when my father, I really told last week, Sunday or something, I bring here with me the wiping,
Wet wipe.
We can wipe, they become, clean, nice. Then I have this a lot, then I took one, then I wiped my father's face. Just one time, complete black. Then I asked him do you take shower? He said, maybe it's a couple years ago. I went to that Tibetan, they have a lot of nature, hot springs. Yes, people go jump there, they don't take bath, they just go jump there, stay there. Then he said, they call this, they take shower. They don't use the soap there, they just jump there, they just and then I said, it's a couple years ago I went there, Then, and here maybe unbelievable, right? It's weather situation is very similar here and there, but everybody we have to take shower every day here. Then, since bathroom, and there we can go everywhere, Here, look like that things, you can, this country, these people cannot deal. They cannot deal.
Cannot do that, yeah.
Cannot do that. But that things not very well done, but people very relaxed. They don't worry too much things. Then here, environments haven't done, maybe people's minds not really healthy, Some maybe level there. Anyway, thank you. You can stop that. Then, read this a little bit. And also you have the book, there are also a lot of lojons. Sometimes Tibetan texts always complain. Buddhism always complain by yourself. We complain always others, right? You say, he doesn't do that, she doesn't do that. Buddhism text say, because you did this, right? This culture also different. A little difficult also you guys to understand or to accept. A little difficult. One my friend, he told me, you Buddhism is not really true. You always blame toward. What are problems you blame yourself? You say your fault. It's not my fault. No. He did me that. Then you go to detail that, then something, the wrong change what it was.
So it's all because of the self-cherishing attitude, right?
Okay, anyway, thank you. I think we don't need to question answer. Nothing question today, maybe we can stop that. Okay? Tuji chanting master. Thank you.
Okay, page 39. Sashi Bodhi Jukshi From my two collections, vast as space, that I have amassed for working with effort and practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds' wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I beheld your love and compassion for all my life's long history. May I find the best of complete greater paths of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by practicing. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings, with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion, the grandchildren such teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined. May I reveal this treasure of happiness made. May the minds of those who wish for liberation, transparency, peace, and the Buddhist deeds be nourished for a long time. Even this great course of what I have repeated, to the one who spirituous conduct to the Buddhas and their children. May all human and non-human beings who eliminate adversity and make things conducive for practicing the excellent path never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes an effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may they always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. The long life prayer for His Holiness, followed by the long life prayer for Lama Zopa on page 49. In that snow mountain-encircled land, source of every uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustain, preserving, and spreading Manju's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels. Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. The dedication prayers on page 57. Through this virtue may I swiftly, having gained Guru Buddha's state, place each and every sentient being without exception in that state. Precious supreme Bodhi mind, may it where unborn arise, and where born never decline, but increase forevermore. Pygmy sewe te chen chen wei si, dream again beg one pojam pelyam gang chen ke beg su yen song pa lo sang dra beg shabla so arden. Thank you, Geshe.
Good night.
Thank you. What's the score?
What's the score? What did he say? What's the score?
Everything up.